The end of seeking, why your quest for enlightenment is the very thing blocking it. The hook, the exhaustion of the search. You know the feeling, the heavy eyelids during a 4 a.m. meditation, the growing shelf of half-read spiritual books, and the quiet, nagging frustration that despite years of work, you are still fundamentally stuck. In our age of spiritual overachievement, we treat enlightenment like a trophy to be won through grueling effort. We treat the mind like a wild animal that must be tamed, shaped, or suppressed. Yet the breakthrough always seems to be one retreat or one mantra away. This exhaustion is the starting point for the Divine You philosophy of Sri Bhagavath. Emerging from the spiritual heart of Tiruvannamalai, Tamil Nadu, Sri Bhagavath's teachings represent a radical departure from traditional effort-based paths. He suggests that the very act of trying to fix your mind is what keeps it broken. Liberation isn't a destination you reach. It is the undoing of the structures that keep you searching. It is the moment the search reaches a natural standstill. 1. Your intellect is a tool, not the master. In our journey to adulthood, we all eventually eat from what Sri Bhagavath calls the intellect tree. We move away from the innocent, problem-free state of childhood and begin to categorize the world into cherished and unwanted boxes. This discrimination creates a state of obstinacy, where the intellect tries to act as the karta, the controller or doer, insisting that it alone must solve our internal life. True enlightenment is not the glorification of this intellect, but a humble realization of its limits. Sri Bhagavath defines it precisely. It refers to our mental acceptance of total inability of our intellect. In that state, our intellect abandons the adamant attitude, I only will do it. As our obstinacy keeps reducing, the state of our innocent quality keeps raising. When the intellect functions as a controller, it creates internal violence. Sri Bhagavath uses a striking metaphor. Trying to use your intellect to solve a feeling is as futile as taking a screwdriver to open your eyelids. Just as the eyelid closes more tightly when threatened by a tool, the mind tightens when we try to force it into peace. The goal is to become a knowledgeable child, possessing the adult's intellect as a tool for the world, but retaining the child's innocence that refuses to steer the inner flow. Oh, the radical sufficiency of mere intellectual understanding. A common trap for seekers is the belief that intellectual understanding is not enough, that one must wait for a mystical experience to validate the truth. Sri Bhagavath challenges this, suggesting that deep intellectual conviction is not just a precursor to realization, it is the realization. He illustrates this with the story of a youth who mistook a black magician's dismissive Telugu phrase, "Go away without troubling," for a powerful snakebite mantra, because the youth had absolute faith in his understanding. His mantra worked, detoxifying a queen when even the master failed. The power lay in the lack of doubt. Sri Bhagavath warns that the moment you think, I understand, but I need to experience it, you have created a double command in your brain. He compares this to a mobile phone, where a contact's name is recorded twice in different ways. When the call comes, the system gets perplexed and fails to display the caller. Regarding the path, he emphasizes, we should get satisfied that this is what we have to understand. We should not underestimate our understanding. 3. The liquid state versus the frozen ice of meditation. Many spiritual practices aim for a standstill state, such as samadhi. Sri Bhagavath compares these to ice. While ice has an impressive, specific shape, it is not the natural state of water. It requires manual cooling, constant effort to maintain. Sri Bhagavath warns that these frozen states are temporary and potentially dangerous. When the rigid ties of a forced meditative state break, a person can face a mental breakdown or even schizophrenia. True liberation, however, is like water in its liquid state, pravagam. It is a perennial flow that takes the shape of whatever vessel it is in without getting stuck. The frozen state, yoga, samadhi, requires manual tuning, is temporary, effort-based, and risks a shattering of the mind if the effort fails. The liquid state, liberation, features auto-tuning, is permanent, effortless, and adapts to the shape of the present moment. The searching mind stops only when it realizes there is no permanent, solid state to reach. Enlightenment is the transition from the ice of maintained experiences to the liquid flow of reality. 4. The 100/0 rule. External effort versus inner effortlessness. A major source of confusion is the failure to distinguish between the inner and outer realms. Sri Bhagavath proposes a 100/0 rule. 100% effort is required for worldly duties, karma, but 0% effort, total effortlessness, is required for the inner realm. Consider the analogy of a fallen tree on a road. In the external world, you are a vehicle. You cannot proceed without effort. You must either remove the tree or change your route. In the internal world, you are water. Water doesn't try to move the tree. It simply flows around it, creating its own path without confrontation. This philosophy is not an invitation to passivity. Sri Bhagavath insists that a Gnani's job should be to produce Gnanis, not monks. He explicitly supports material progress and family life, arguing that sannyasa asceticism is an internal renunciation of mental struggle, not an abandonment of social or professional excellence. 5. Stop fighting your bad feelings. We often split our feelings into good and bad, trying to prune the unwanted ones. Sri Bhagavath explains that an emotion has two parts. 1. The lightning. This is the unconscious, spontaneous flash, a sudden surge of anger or fear. It lasts only a second. 2. The click. This is the conscious justification or the attempt to fight the feeling. Using a computer metaphor, Sri Bhagavath explains that we click the icon of the feeling to expand it and give it life. You cannot stop the lightning, but you can refuse to click. If you don't show interest or involvement in a spontaneously arrived feeling, it cannot overpower you. As Sri Bhagavath radically states, whatever you are, that only is the state of Buddha. Even a wrong feeling is a Buddha state, if it is allowed to flow without resistance. The problem isn't the anger, it's the secondary effort to change that anger into something else. The forward-looking summary. Becoming a knowledgeable child. Liberation is not a distant destination. It is the cessation of the search. Sri Bhagavath likens the seeker to a pillion rider on a motorcycle. Even though they aren't driving, they twist their body and lean at every turn, thinking they are helping the driver. This internal twisting is our mental effort, and it only hinders the natural flow of life. Stop trying to steer from the rear seat. Sri Bhagavath further reminds us that things like awareness and attention are merely shadows. A shadow follows you naturally as you move toward the light. If you turn around to check if your awareness is present, you are looking at your shadow, and in doing so, you stop moving forward. By abandoning the manual tuning of your mind and allowing auto-tuning to take over, you revert to the state of a child, but with the wisdom of an adult. You become an intelligent child who flows with the stream of life. Closing thought. If you truly accepted that there was nothing left to attain in your mind, what would you do with all that reclaimed energy in the world outside?